Here's a question for you. Why is it that a clear, simple truth, something that should bring everyone together, so often ends up doing the exact opposite? It creates arguments, division. It's a huge paradox, right? Well, today we're going to dive deep into that very question, and we'll be looking at it through the lens of some really fascinating concepts from Islamic scripture. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start really big, talking about the default state of the entire universe. From there, we'll zoom right into humanity's own internal contradictions and what our actual job here is supposed to be. Then we'll get to the juicy part: what happens when clear, undeniable evidence shows up? Why does that truth sometimes tear us apart? And we'll finish up by looking at the idea of final accountability. So let's jump right in. Okay, first things first. To really get this, we have to start with the absolute baseline, the fundamental nature of the universe itself. And the way the source material frames this, well, it might actually surprise you. It's probably not what you'd instinctively think. So get this, the default state of everything, it isn't light, it's darkness. This idea totally flips our usual way of thinking on its head. Light, order, life, those aren't the norm. They're actually the interruption, the exception. The natural baseline is something way more raw, more primal. And what does that primal state look like? Well, the cosmic defaults are things like chaos, destruction, and death. I mean, think about that for a second. This perspective is basically saying that peace and order and even life itself, they're not the natural state of things. They're active, deliberate interventions that have to be made against this incredibly chaotic backdrop. And this really puts it bluntly. I mean, think about it. Nature can be absolutely brutal. There's really no justice in it. A lion doesn't think twice about its actions. A tsunami doesn't pick and choose who it hits. So the point is, nature isn't really on our side. Life is a constant struggle against these powerful, totally indifferent forces. Okay, so that's the universe, this big, chaotic stage. Now, let's bring the focus down to us, to humanity. Because this is where we find a central tension, a paradox right inside ourselves. If the universe is fundamentally chaotic, then where do we fit in? And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It's the core human paradox, right here. On one side, you have our origins. Incredibly humble, described here as basically a leech-like substance. But then, on the other side, you have our arrogance. We get a little bit of intellect, some consciousness, and suddenly we start thinking we're really something. It's a wild contrast. And when you put that arrogance up against the vast, chaotic universe we just talked about, well, this quote brings us right back down to earth. We're just a speck of dust somewhere. It's a pretty powerful reality check, isn't it? So, okay, we've got a chaotic universe, and we've got this paradoxical humanity, full of both humility and arrogance. The big question then is, what are we even doing here? What's our purpose? Well, the source material suggests we've been given a very specific job, a designated role to play. And that role is called a khalifa, which basically means a steward or a caretaker. The whole idea is that humanity was given a unique toolkit, things like intellect, knowledge, and free will, specifically to push back against that cosmic default of chaos. Our job is to be the agents who actually create order, who harness life, and who bring justice into a world that, left to its own devices, has none. So what does that look like in the real world? It's not just about sitting around and praying, it's about action. Take a tsunami, for example. That's nature unleashing pure chaos. But humanity, using the intellect we've been given, can develop things like early warning systems to save thousands of lives. That action, using our knowledge to create safety and justice, that's what it means to be a steward. All right, so we've established our mandate. We're supposed to be stewards, but if you're going to give someone a huge job like that, you probably need to give them some instructions, right? A clear guide. And that's exactly where this specific chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Bayyinah, comes in. It's presented as the arrival of that ultimate, clarifying knowledge, the final, unambiguous truth that's designed to make the path forward, the path of justice and doing the right thing, crystal clear. Now, here's a really crucial point. Al-Bayyinah means the clear evidence, and it's not just talking about a book. It's actually a two-part system. You have the divine scripture itself, perfectly preserved, and you have the messenger who delivers it, who lives it, explains it, and shows you how it works. The two together are meant to create a truth that is completely free of doubt. And this This brings us right back to the central paradox, the burning question we started with. If the evidence is so clear, if the truth is supposed to be free of doubt, then shouldn't the result be unity? Shouldn't everyone just get on the same page? Well, as we all know, that's not exactly what happens.
So yeah, here it is. This is the heart of the whole thing. If the clear truth has come, why is there still so much dispute? If the guidance is perfect, why is the human result so often, well, messy and imperfect? Why do we, even when we have clarity, still fall into conflict?
The source actually lays out this really dangerous and honestly very familiar path. It shows how it all escalates. See, it just starts with a simple difference, but that difference can turn into a dispute. That dispute hardens into real division. Division then breeds animosity, real hatred, and from there, it's a short step to war. It's a tragic pattern, but one we've seen play out over and over again in human history. So what's the problem? According to this, the problem isn't the truth. The problem isn't a flaw in the message. The division comes from us. It comes from human choice. The ability to argue, to dispute, to disagree. That's built right into our nature. The conflict happens not because the truth is cloudy, but because people make the choice to reject it, or argue about it, or twist it for their own purposes. But wait, this doesn't mean all disagreement is bad or forbidden. In fact, the source gives us a really practical framework for how to handle our disagreements. It's pretty simple. For conclusive arguments, things you can actually solve with evidence, well, settle them. For cyclical arguments, the ones that just go around and around in circles, the best thing to do is just ignore them. And for those infinite arguments, the big questions nobody can ever truly answer, you leave those for the day of judgment. It's a pretty smart way to deal with conflict, right? Okay, so let's bring this all home. Let's talk about the final accountability. What are the actual stakes here? What are the ultimate consequences of the choices we make when faced with this clear evidence? Well, the scripture basically lays out two very different paths, two possible outcomes. On one path, you have the worst of creatures. These are the ones who get the clear truth, but they choose to disbelieve and create disputes. And on the other path, you have the best of creatures. These are the ones who believe, and this is the key part, they turn that belief into good deeds, into righteous actions. They actually do the job of being a steward. And this leads to a really interesting reframing of what it means to fear God. The fear mentioned here isn't about being scared of some terrifying monster in the sky. It's more of a mature, profound respect for accountability. It's the deep understanding that our choices have consequences and that we will ultimately be held responsible for how we handled our job as stewards here on Earth. So, if we accept that division comes from human choice, that leaves us with one last, really crucial question to think about. Why does religion itself, the very thing meant to guide us, have the potential to be corrupted by that same human choice? It's a huge question and a really important one. But maybe that's a topic for our next explainer. Thanks for tuning in.